Hello and welcome to tonight's show.
Hello and welcome to On the Bench 2024 Season 8 episode 180. And this episode is being brought to you by our newest Patreon supporter, quite fittingly for 2024. And that's Henning Risch, who has decided to come along and help assist us by becoming a Patreon. And you too can do exactly the same as that by going to www.patreon.com/on the bench. And in the studio with me, I have got Ian.
G'day, Dave. G'day, Julian. G'day, listeners.
And Julian.
Good morning.
2024, Season 8.
Yeah.
Holy golly.
Yeah, it's where have the years gone, mate?
2017, July 2017 we first started.
Yeah.
And here we
That's
are.
ridiculous.
I know.
It doesn't seem that long,
No.
but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I know. I would never have thought that we could, think of enough things to talk about.
Yeah, me too, when we
180
first
episodes.
started, yeah. Well, we still seem to be finding something to chat about.
Indeed. So, how has your 2024 been so far in regards to modelling?
Very quiet. Family matters, so
Bugger.
yeah, won't go into that. But so nothing as yet, unfortunately.
Oh, all right, Julian.
Well, I got. There's been some progress and then a lot of laziness. I mean, it's the holiday season, right? So,
For some.
you sort of just want to sit down and do not much, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've been the opposite. I've been firing all cylinders.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Finished my first model for 2024.
All right.
Long, what, 4 pieces?
Yeah, you've just burnt your your potential 24-hour build right there.
No, I couldn't have done that in 24 hours. And
Really?
yeah, no.
Oh, I could have.
I had an
that
axe.
thing is so simple looking.
Well, you think so, except I had an act. Well, there's two things. You've got to get rid of that because it's 3D printed. It's a Tirana.
Missile.
No.
Drone.
Yeah. They use as target practice, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's 3D printed, it's got those fine sort of wood grain lines you got to sand back. And because it's so small, so that was a lot of work. And then I glued something onto something else and left it overnight. And when I came back, I put a clamp on it. And the clamp was too powerful and it squashed the whole thing. So, oh my
I
God.
shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh. Well, that sounds like I'm just sort of picturing you coming back to me. Oh no!
Well, I did. And so I...
It's like that submarine that just imploded.
So I sort of, nearly sort of threw it in the well of tears. And I thought, no, I'll just leave it there, put it aside. And a day later I came back and I was able to manipulate the parts back into the right shape.
Yep.
And so it's all glued up and painted, but now I've noticed there's a crack appeared, so I'm just going to leave it. It's all right.
Just turn it around, see the cracks.
Well, the crack's underneath, nobody can see it.
Oh, well, there you go. Who cares?
And the beauty about it is, also I put it on the base, so I've started my thing of basing my models now.
Oh, there you go.
And now I'm working on 2 other drones now, 70-second scale. So
that's the new thing for Dave.
drones.
Yeah.
Oh, it just. So here's a dumb thing. You look at it and you think, oh, that'd be a quick, easy slammer build.
Mm.
But because they're small and the quality's, it's taking a lot longer than I sort of, thought. So, and in this packet you get two kits in the one box, so you can have 2 of the same model, but you can have different
markings
and colour schemes.
Cool.
So I'm looking forward to getting that done. But I've decided now to commit myself. So every second Friday I go off to club meetings. So Friday nights is Dave's night, and the off Friday I've decided to commit that to being dedicated modelling night as well, regardless. So hopefully that'll sort of pick the pace up and my build rate as well.
That's an interesting concept. Modelling as a schedule.
Well, no, I'm not doing it as a schedule so much as saying Friday nights are my nights. So even if I just go in there and just, faff around in the room, I don't care. But I'm not going to sit on the couch and watch TV or do something like that. I'm not going to be distracted unless it's a family event on, or a work event. So, but by and large, Friday nights are my nights from now on. On top of whatever other hours I can sort of grab along the way.
Yep.
And the only other thing I can really talk about, which is not modelling related, is my unholy war I'm having with a possum at the moment.
Yes.
This possum, the last couple of years, has been coming around eating my silver birches. And now he's decided that, and I've also got some ornamental pear trees at the back, and he's decided, I like them as well now. So I bought some, last year I bought some little spiky things.
Yeah, put on top of the fence.
Yeah, he just walks over them.
Oh, the ones for birds.
No, these ones specifically for possums, but he just walks straight past them, he doesn't care. Because this possum's big, man. It's a bushy-tailed possum, so it's like the size of a
small dog.
Think of a what are those?
They're the size of a cat, aren't they?
Oh no, he's bigger than that.
Cat.
Yeah.
I know some cats are pretty big.
Well, yeah. Okay, think of the largest cat you've ever seen domestic.
Maine Coon.
Yeah, Maine Coon. It's like a Maine Coon.
Yeah.
And he just, wandered straight across the top of these. So I'm going with a 3-prong attack. I've been reading up. Apparently they don't like mothballs. So first line of defence will be mothballs along the top of the fence. Second line of defence will be some more spikes, but super tall ones this time. Mm-hmm. And third line of defence will be I'm going to put some grease on top of the fence, so if he tries to stand on it, he'll slide off and it won't feel nice on his paws.
I still reckon a car battery and some wire. Just run a string of wire across the very top. If it touches it, it won't do it again. Won't kill it, but it'll give it a heck of a shock and it'll stay away.
So this next stage is like if there's been a brewing war, but this is sort of going to be the Horus Heresy now between Dave and the possum. We shall see who will win.
Yeah, well, we'll see who ends up banished to the warp, hey?
And then I went and bought a couple of our hobby shops have had New Year's sales. So there was a Academy 1/72nd scale SR71 that I purchased.
Right.
Unfortunately, because I want to do it in the NASA livery, but it doesn't come with the NASA decals.
Are you able to get the decals for that?
No, I've been looking everywhere, man.
Seriously?
Yeah, there's none around. So it's a call out to the benches out there if anybody knows.
But
where
in
I
there,
can
like
get.
with the NASA one, it's got like a little white stripe that says NASA on the top of the
Yellow.
one of the no
Yellow.
Oh, yellow stripe is it on the top of the tail, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or tails. Trying to remember.
So any bencher out there knows where I can get my hands on 1/72nd scale NASA decals for an SR71. Drop me an email to on the bench
In 1/72nd scale.
Yeah, on the bench 64@gmail.com. And I've even checked Sprue Brothers in the US, and usually they're sort of my go-to.
I'm surprised that you said you can't find any. I thought they'd be out. You'd be able to get them.
Yeah, I know. So did I. I can find some 1/48 scale ones, but I don't. It's 1/72nd scale ones on there. So,
You won't be able to paint them?
Yeah, I'm lazy, man. I just want to.
I don't know. If you can get the design, get Julian to cut it out in the silhouette cutter and just.
Yeah.
It's one colour. Oh, two. Well, white and then yellow over the top.
Didn't I cut something for you once before along these lines?
Yeah, you did. And I didn't use them in the end.
Hopeless.
I ended up using the decals.
It's not even that hard.
I know.
I find it a lot easier than doing decals. Painting.
Yeah.
And it looks so much better.
Oh, hey, that's me. Colour me pink. I'm weird that way.
Yeah.
There is a sharpness to decals that
There is.
can't be beat sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, with the with car molds being like the dashed stripe that all runs down the side of some cars,
Yep.
There's like a sharpness to them that you just can't get with painting, I don't think.
That's very true.
Because like if you have to paint it, you have to put on enough white to be completely consistent, right? And then it's like a big
What
sort
was I
of
watching the other day?
thing.
A couple of weeks ago on YouTube, of all things, I was watching a little snippet of this. I think it was in the late 50s, early 60s in the Cadillac factory.
Right.
I'm watching the guys who do the pinstriping.
Oh, yeah.
The way I do it by hand.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, they've got like this little wheeled thing that they rest their hand on, and they just got the paintbrush and they go down the whole length of the car.
You seen the video on the guy who does it for Bentley? He's been doing it for like the past, like, I don't know, 50 years or something.
Yep.
So, well, just one guy.
Yep.
It's his only job.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he probably gets paid quite well too.
All right, let's do a couple of public service announcements.
Yes.
First one is the Rockhampton Model Show coming up in the 3rd of February 2024. And this would have to be one of my most favourite model shows that I haven't been to, but I'd love to go to, because it is held at the Criterion Pub in Key Street, Rockhampton. So this is the 19th Queensland NNL titles, Saturday 9am to 4pm, 3rd of February at the Criterion Hotel, Key Street, Rockhampton. And some of the categories have got cars. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 car categories. Motorbikes, trucks, aircraft, only large and small scale. Military land vehicles, small and large. Figures, fictional and factual. Ships and other watercraft, science fiction, movie themed, miscellaneous, diorama. And there's some big trophies. There's the General Public Choice, Best of Show, Best Australian, and the Show and Shine. So if you live in the area of Rockhampton and you're doing absolutely nothing on that particular date, which again for everybody is the 3rd of February, get yourself along to Criterion Hotel. And if you don't take a model, well, at least you can buy a beer and sort of walk around with it
And have a look.
I reckon it'd be awesome. You can have a can of lunch there, and get a motel just around the corner so you can get half cut.
Yeah, you don't want to get half cut.
We certainly could afterwards.
Oh, afterwards, yeah. Yes.
No, that sounds like a lot of fun. And yeah, trouble is it's just so far north. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a long trip.
Next public service announcement is the Southern Model Club here in Victoria. They've got a swap meet on February the 11th, and that is going to be held at Caulfield RSL, which is at number 4 George Street, Elstonwick. Opening from 11 o'clock, public entry $5, and if you want to actually go and have a table, you need to sort of get in contact with them. So you go, swap meet, February 11th. Don't think I'll be going because I think I'm away.
I'm trying to stay away from buying kits.
Well, I am away that weekend. I'm in Hobart. I've decided to take Michelle away for a weekend in Hobart.
Go down to Tasmania.
You jump on the plane and fly down there. And
What, you're not going to take the ferry?
Nah, it's too long. It's a 60-minute flight versus a 7-hour trip in the ferry.
So you're leaving from Moorabbin?
No, Tullamarine.
Oh, what, you're going in a proper jet?
Yeah.
If you go to Tassie, you go by a prop. That's the way I always do when I go to Tassie. Because you're going back to the 1950s, so why not do 1950s
If
style
you fly to
travelling?
Launceston, 9 times out of 10, it's a prop. They'll see.
Yeah, that's the way I went, yeah.
But
I went to
Hobart,
Tassie.
because Hobart's a jet, so
Yeah.
better.
Jeez, what's that, 15-minute flight?
Yeah.
It would be less than an hour, wouldn't it?
So I'm showing Michelle last night and showing her all. I said, hey, I want to take you away for the weekend. So she's really excited. And I'm showing her all these hotels. And she goes, oh, I like that one. I said, no, it's a better one. I'll show you this one. And it's sort of her colours and everything the rim's done up in. But sneakily, just around the corner is the Maritime Museum. So
Aha, smart move. Smart cookie.
method to my madness.
There is.
All right, let's have a quick break and hear a word from our fantastic sponsor, Scott Taylor. Back very shortly.
Hi, I'm Scott, the creator and owner of the Scale Modeler Supply, Australia's largest manufacturer of hobby paints. Our premium airbrush-ready acrylic lacquer paints are designed specifically for use on plastics, with a comprehensive range covering all popular modelling subjects including military, aircraft, rail, auto, sci-fi and more. And not only that, but we also have a wide selection of essential hobby tools and now, Infinite Colour, our new range of water-based paints for miniatures. So to check out our range and to find your closest retailer, please visit our website at scalemodeler.com.au. So when quality matters, choose SMS Paints.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Again, thank you very much for all of your wonderful support over the last 7-8 years. It's been absolutely awesome. Radio, we got a ton of emails that have come in. And absolute ton. So let's start with the very, very first one, which is from Adam Greenwald, who writes, "Hi Dave, Ian and Julian. Thank you for the pod over the year. It helps me feel like a modeller when I'm not getting any time at the bench. The podcast revolution has definitely helped my mental health, and long may it do so. The great M113 versus M8 Greyhound argument between Ian and myself, which, folks, can I just interrupt and say, newsflash, just come in. And the votes are as follows. For the Greyhound, 20 votes, 26%. And for the M113 in 1/16 scale, 56 votes, 73%.
Wow. We're totally wrong on that one, weren't we, Julian?
Boom. Mic drop. Dave walk away.
73% of our podcast, right? I was sort of making that as a sort of thing like, I reckon the general public would be hotter for the Greyhound just because it's World War II. And the M113 is just a box.
But again, you are both missing the point.
What's the point?
The amount of modelers out there who served on, in, or around an M113 far outweighs the amount of modelers who want to build a Greyhound. And that's why, boom, I won the vote.
Well, no skin off my nose because I didn't put any money down.
Yeah, but you set the whole thing up. Ian was the one who's now going to take me to a model shop and buy me something to my heart's content.
Yep.
Or whatever I sort of fancy. And you walk away scot-free. I'm sensing some unfairness
We all
here.
knew this is why I was going into it, all right? So don't give me some kind of guilt trip. Right?
Let's continue on with what Adam has to say.
I was happy for it to just stay as a little poll type thing, but I don't know.
That's all right.
Why did you put your money down? Did you think
I thought I was sure I was going to win. But I was wrong. Not the first time. Won't be the last time.
Adam continues, I don't really build armour, but as there is a NASA M113, I guess that's where my taste would fall. And by the way, I've built a NASA M113. I did it in that sort of fluorescent
That
lime
green
colour, yeah. There's also a white one, which I might do one day. Anyway. Yes. And Adam just says, cheers, don't drink too much while modelling over Christmas. And thanks very much. And he's still a JJ fanboy.
Oh, there you go.
No accounting.
They're still around.
Is there? Yeah. Next one comes from Steve Lee. Hello, Dave, Ian and Julian. Steve Lee from Sprue Pie with Frets. Here to agree loudly with Dave that Take On and Andy's Hobby HQ or somebody should produce a high-quality M113 in 1/16 scale. Boom!
This
is going to be constant all day.
That's not possible because the M113 isn't a very quality vehicle, is it?
I am a former inhabitant of an M113 A2 and an M901 improved tow vehicle, and I can attest that it is the nature parked
in its natural
parked pose with top hatches and rear ramp open. The old 113 has a full interior that would rival any other open-topped, open-hatch SD, KFZ or SP gun subject for model ability. A good middling size also. A finished 1/16 M113 would be about the size of a 1/35 Elephant or King Tiger. And the versions we have, says Stephen, deployed in conflicts from Vietnam to now. Lots of interesting variants in armies on virtually every continent. An ACAV version with lots of optional weapons and stowage parts, in my humble opinion, would be a crowd pleaser on 1/16, and which could easily be built plain as a versatile jumping off point for aftermarket depicting the iconic Israeli, Australian and countless others. I've already voted on your Facebook page and participated in other polls for a 1/16 M113. Steve, you're a champion, mate. Thank you very much.
See, I think if you saw a 1/16 scale M113 on a table, you might confuse it for a toaster.
Aussie Scale Models writes in, hi Dave, Ian and Julian. Just finished listening to episode 179 and it's always a good episode.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say that I have to agree with Dave. Sorry, Ian and Julian.
That's
Have you cherry-picked these?
No, I haven't. I'm telling
It's looking like it, isn't it, Julian?
about the 1/16 scale M113 being a good seller, as Dave said, there are so many countries that use them, including the UN. So there are lots of options for a company to draw from. I don't do 1/16 scale, due to not having a lot of room to display. But if there was one released, I would get one. There you go.
See, I'm not of. I'll disagree with the whole options thing. I don't think that sells kits. Like, no one cares about options.
But the M113...
Or the fact that a vehicle has been in a lot of armies doesn't make it a seller, right?
The option...
Otherwise, look at all the German stuff. That flies off the shelves, all the German armor, and yet it's mostly only the Germans who use them.
Dude, you're paddling upriver without a paddle. Because the reason why options would be good is...
I'm not saying they wouldn't be good. I'm saying that's not what sells kits.
Well, this would sell kits because...
Why would it sell kits?
Because so many dudes in different armies or on different versions of M113s, they'll all want to do one that they rode in, or they drove, or they commanded.
That you're talking about like our side of the hobby,
Yeah.
which is the very involved side. Then we all know that the vast majority of sales go to casual modelers, right? And they just build it out of the box.
I can guarantee
And they just go,
you,
oh, I'll pick this one because it's got the nice yellow insignia on the side of it.
I can guarantee, I reckon there would not be a soldier who served in a NATO or Western Army or indeed Middle Eastern Army like the IDF who did not.
Yeah, but this trend that you're talking about, it doesn't apply to any other model out there.
I know, because, you know why? Because
there are loads of American personnel who have been in Humvees, right? That have been in M1 Abrams and stuff. They're not trying to build their own vehicle. You're not seeing M1 Abrams on all the tables, are you?
But you're missing the point of affection that people have who used to.
I think people would be more affectionate about an M1 Abrams than they would about an M113.
More affectionate about a 113 than a Humvee for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think there's any connection there.
It's okay, folks. She doesn't get it.
I don't think you get it.
Right. Craig continues on. As for the Detloff, they are really good cabinets. And
That's Detolf. Detloff.
Detloff. I said Detloff.
Don't look at me.
Oh, no, whatever.
They are really good
You can
cabinets.
still get them anyway.
And I wouldn't like to see them go away. My wife and I have 3. One for my models, one for Star Wars helmets, and one for my wife.
You can get them on Amazon.
Grogus.
I checked this out recently. You can still get them on Amazon, right? Just you won't find them under that name because that's the name that IKEA use. But you can still get them because they're not only sold by IKEA. They're sold, like, generally speaking, under a whole bunch of different no-name brands.
The new version that IKEA sells, I got one of them, and it's far superior to the Detloff because you can seal it and quite easily so dust won't get in. And I've had mine now for 12 months, and when I put the seals around the edge and I put little magnets on so the door stays closed,
Yeah, I wish
I've got no dust in there whatsoever.
Yeah, I know the dust thing is a problem, but the upside of the Detloff is the fact that you can put more shelves in it very easily.
I can put more shelves in this one too easily.
How?
It gives you little things to add in more shelves.
Where do you get the shelves from?
I go back to IKEA and buy them.
Okay.
Or go to the glazier and say, "Hey, make me some of this size, glass this size."
Yeah, I've got perspex for my one.
Oh, that's perhaps a better idea.
Just don't go down to 5 mil because they start to bow a little bit.
Trouble is, perspex against glass is the
What was it,
it'll
3
attract
mil?
dust. It'll attract dust.
I thought there's no dust getting in it.
Well, there's not, but there'll be even less ability for dust to get in there if you just got glass. Although, mind you, it doesn't work because you've got plastic models you're putting in there. So, oh well, let's move on.
Yep.
Craig goes on to say, so he's got 3 of them, one for Star Wars helmets, one for his wife's Grogu's, which he must have a lot on. And he says, shame on you, Falcon, for not liking Grogu. I also got a free STL file to add some extra shelf supports for extra shelves for it as well. Love the discussion about bases, and I have to say they do enhance a completed model in most cases. I took inspiration from some of the bases that model displays at Scale ACT this year, especially the ones that had planes on them. All Julian would have to do is make a tarmac, would get some of the foam insulation, either of the asphalt products from Ammo or AK would work. That's a good or bad idea.
Right.
As always, looking forward to next episode. Hope you all had a safe, uneventful Christmas and New Year period. That's from Craig Everson. Thanks mate.
Craig.
I wouldn't want to go with foam, though. I would want to go with like a board of some kind. Something that's broad enough that you can use it for photography purposes and have it out there. Because, you often run out of space when you're doing backdrops. You need to have them fairly large.
Well,
another M113.
We have a first-time writer in, Eric Kavina. He says, "Gents, while I think there would be something of a market for 1/16th M113 based on nostalgia, I have to agree it would be a poor subject in the scale for the reasons Julian and Ian mentioned." And you were saying I was cherry-picking these emails. Sorry, Dave. This one is a vote against your position. I would also like to propose a modification of the wager. I believe that rather than buying the other a kit, the loser should be required to buy the Falcon a respirator, as his position on Grogu can only be ascribed to sniffing too many paint fumes. I hope you've all had a great holiday season, even the poor, benighted Falcon. That's from Eric.
I like that. That's good.
Oh, Gary just writes a very short one and says, "I'm voting for the 1/16 Greyhound. Lots of love from Blackwater, South Australia."
That's backwater.
Backwater, South Australia. Oh, Gary, there's no accounting for taste. Sorry, mate. So delete that one. Brandon Waters writes in, "Hey, Happy New Year, guys. When talking about bases for aeroplanes, I definitely think that the base ties. I definitely think the base ties the model together because it justifies the weathering. Think of the Phantom and all the environments and whether it endured. The base with its dirt and mud or sand and dust would do a lot visually to inform the viewer of where this plane was, and will do it much faster than a placard could. Keep up the good work, gents. Hope to see you at Heritage Con one day, maybe." It's from Brandon.
Anything's possible, Brandon.
You never know. It's got a point there where he says the base ties in and helps sort of fill in the blanks for the actual model. That's
why we do it.
Quite a good, astute observation. Lee writes in, "Dear Benchers, 3 things following from your most recent excellent podcast, if I may. First, I'm not a tank person, so it's all letters and numbers to me. Even so, I vote for whatever it was that David said.
Sucker.
Second, the nature of the base you put a model on depends on what you want the base to do. In my case, I wanted to tell the viewer what they are looking at the same way that a placard will do in a museum. I think we assume too much knowledge in most people who look at models, and I attach a photo of what the bases of all my models look like, which is done down below. Third, about pure display events, our Modelers of Ballarat Display Day is a pure display with no competition involved. It has been for many years, and while we usually manage over 500 models that the visiting public find interesting to look at. Next year's display day will be Saturday, 21st of April.
Sunday,
beg your pardon, 21st of April at the Eastwood Leisure Centre in Centre Ballarat. Some more publicity will be out soon.
Awesome.
Fourthly, congratulations of providing the modelling community with me and 7 years of modelling, listening excellence and pleasure. Keep it up, Lee. Lee, it's interesting you should say that about the Ballarat Club, because we've got Jim Bates coming on the show later on, and he's going to be talking about a display-only show that's done on the West Coast, and I think they get something like 3,000 models on display.
Yep. That's a big show, though.
Ballarat, that's
not far from us.
That's only an hour. We should really get up there for that Sunday.
Yeah.
Lee, send some more information and we'll push the show out for
Probably
you.
do a road trip.
Well, yes.
Throw Julian in the boot and off we'll go.
Well, it's actually about 2 hours from here.
Yes, 2 hour trip.
Yeah, that's not bad. We can do that. That's easy.
Yeah.
With my eyes shut. All right, done.
Leave in the morning and we'll come back in the evening.
Yeah. Thanks, Lee. Next one comes from Philip Abraham. Excuse me, I'll just clear my throat. Greetings, chaps. Great show to end the year. Thanks for all the tips, banter, and great guests over 2023. Now, the need for vehicle drivers was mentioned. The company have what was that? Oh, we were talking about vehicle drivers, weren't we?
Yeah. 'Cause I remember I was looking for a driver that I could do was Bob Bondurant.
Yeah. There's a company that has a range of drivers to suit different eras, so you may find something that fits and only requires minimal fettling. And that's www.spotmodels.com.
Oh, cool.
They also have an amazing range of vehicle-specific decals. No link other than a very happy customer. And here's to a great 2024. May your breakfast be large
They always are.
and your solvent unspoiled.
Thank you, Philip.
Thanks, Phil.
So Spot Models, I have to look into that.
Spotmodels.com. So
I've ordered them from them before.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, they're a very automotive orientated website, but it's kind of it's not a store like B&A. It's more like the far reach corners of B&A where they've get something in and you're like, why is this always out of stock?
Right.
You know, and it's more like a specialty thing. So they'll it's good if you pay attention to their emails because they'll tell you like what they're getting in and it'll be something that they haven't got in for quite some time.
Yep.
Okay.
Or a new specialty product that's come on the market.
I'll definitely look into it.
All right. So it's Vil from Finland again. I was wondering if you guys have any tips, tricks, or techniques that you've learnt and thought, how the heck haven't I thought of this before? Here are some examples. After scribing panel lines, you clean them with Tamiya Extra Thin quick setting glue.
Yep.
Second one is cleaning panel line overflow marks with a regular eraser. Oh, wouldn't that depend on what you're using to do the panel lines?
I'll have to try that. I haven't thought of that one.
And cutting BMF to exact strips before attaching them. This way you can avoid wavy lines on model car or possibly damaging the painted body.
Bare metal foil, yeah.
There's probably more that I have learned and have already forgotten. What about you guys? Well, there's some good tips in there. Have you guys got anything?
I'm trying to think. You got me. It's like one of those things where you get asked something and you go, you know plenty. You're just trying to get one off the top of your head.
It's one of those sort of things where it's like the
a eureka moment. Oh, why didn't I think of that before?
Yeah, but I mean, like, it seems like almost everything I know of has been one of those at some point in time.
Yeah. I see what you mean, yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost like I've got a lot, but also nothing at the same time. So nothing really stands out.
Yes, true.
Don't know. I can't think of anything offhand. Except to say that...
I think for me, one of my main eureka moments was when I was a young kid first learning the hobby and I, without even realising, taught myself how to dry brush.
All right.
Never heard of dry brushing, just one day just did something and, ooh, geez, that looks really good. Then found out later the technique was called dry brushing and... I was watching... there's a YouTube channel that's kind of very 3D printing orientated, but it generally ties in with the Warhammer mini painting crowd type stuff. He has sort of promoted in recent times, sort of taking dry brushing to a higher level. So, for example, one of their things is like a thing that you can just download the file on 3D print, and it's basically like a texture palette. And so that you can basically dial in exactly how you want your dry brushing going down before you actually use it on the model. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's a brilliant idea.
So it looks like a flat sort of thing that sits on your desk, and it sort of has like different sort of textures and things that look like stone walls, archways, things like different ground terrain and things like that.
See, that's a eureka moment. That's a great idea. I like that.
Maybe we should have a tips and tricks episode.
Well,
in the future.
Yeah,
well,
we can actually sit down and think about what we can talk about.
Yeah, he has a whole like tutorial kind of a series on like all the sort of more rather than just it's just dry brushing. Like there are sort of ways to improve your dry brushing.
Yes,
because obviously, like with mini painting, there's quite a bit of that, and it's kind of considered a retro technique these days. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's not a technique that really gets used much anymore, even though it's very entry.
I don't know why. It's
kind of an entry tier. It's almost like everyone's first attempt at weathering, right?
Yeah, and bringing out enhancing details.
Yeah, but then after a while, that sort of goes away, and you start messing around with oils and washes and ground effects and pigments, and it sort of goes, that's some stuff I did as a teenager. that's going back in the amateur box, you know. But it doesn't have to be.
No, that's right.
The next email comes from Rodney Spooner, who writes, "Hi Dave, your two colleagues underestimate the appeal of a 1/16th M113. I know, Rodney, I know.
No,
I want a couple, he says. Lots of detail in the rear compartment, easily viewed via either the hatch roof or with the ramp down or via both. Add the option of a possible radio control version. It would have an even greater market. I only own two 1/16 scale kits, which is a Tamiya Leopard 1 and an M1 Abrams, and model many genres, including aircraft, AFVs, ships, cars, and some sci-fi. The M113 has been probably the most widely used Western vehicle since World War II, and an injection moulded kit in that scale is overdue. There once was a 1/15 scale resin kit by Verlinden, which is really hard to find nowadays.
Right, there was too.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Geez, that would have been expensive.
Verlinden,
Imagine the size of the weight of that.
Yeah, it would have been, because that would have been solid cast resin back then too.
Anyway,
it'd be like a big cookie jar.
Yeah.
So,
yes, that's the box.
he actually, and kindly, he's actually added a picture of the Linden box art that came from
1/15. That's a weird scale.
It is a weird scale, isn't it?
Well, that was all the way back. They didn't have 1/16 back then.
That's
probably
true. Yeah.
What
We're
time?
probably talking 80s, 90s.
How far back to those 1/16 scale Tamiya
I don't know.
tanks and things
They're
go?
going to go back to the
They go back a
80s
fair
or
way, don't
70s.
they?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Because they were mostly like RC.
Radio control stuff, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, thanks, Rodney. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Craig Emerson writes in again. Hi, David and Julian. Just finished listening to one
We
episode.
did that one.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we did too. Why have I got it
God,
twice?
Dave, what are you doing?
He didn't write it again. You just read it again.
That's all right. And that's it for emails. And as I said, there was a whole swag of emails. We love reading out what you guys got to say.
Yeah.
Very entertaining and a lot of fun. If you want to send us an email, our email address is onthebench64@gmail.com. And just write in with whatever you feel like talking about. And we'll read it out and have a laugh.
We will. And we'll have a discussion.
And also, there's the Facebook page, the On Your Bench.
Thank you, Julian.
Yes, I saw someone on the On Your Bench page bought Ball Voice.
Yeah.
Based on my mentioning of it.
Yes. So
Seemed pretty
you keep talking about it. Well,
pretty happy with his purchase.
Well, yeah. I know. Gosh. I'm only trying to bring up the name of the person. What the heck? I'm only trying up the name of the person. I'll just keep talking.
You don't have to call him out.
You don't have to call him out, yeah. But no, there's a lot of good stuff on that page now. There's some talent of so many people.
Oh, I know.
Absolutely amazing. Just, totally blows my mind.
And of course, I can't find the actual post.
Yeah, there we go. You found it. Eric.
Oh, good mate, Eric
Semmelmeyer.
Yeah.
Yes, he bought one. Yeah, I'll have to get my hands on one now.
How much was it again?
Yours was about
Mine was $75.
Yeah.
$75. Yours was cheap, though. I thought it was. About 100 and
I
something.
don't know. Some of them are more expensive by a lot, and some of
display
them,
one to be over $100.
and some of them are cheaper. And I don't know. All I did was try to find one that I could get that had the knurled knob on the side, so I didn't have to use the key to tighten it up.
Yep.
That's all.
Oh, very cool.
It really works well for what Eric's doing.
Yeah.
Where he's got 72nd scale armor mounted in it for his weathering and stuff.
What if you get a bigger version? It'd be great for doing larger scale tanks as well.
They get the bigger ones. You're starting to get into like off of our sort of hobby type thing and going into actual like
that's true.
What do you call it? Not dual crafting, like a
Jeweler's Vice.
Yeah, it's an actual jeweler's vice, and those things are like $1,500 or something. It's crazy money.
Yeah. Very cool.
All right, let's have a quick break, and we'll come back and see what the Falcon's got to say with his news for 2024. Back very shortly. All right, let's have a look at what the Falcon has in regards to news for 2024, and we'll start off with general news. Airfix will announce their lineup for 2024 on the 9th of January at 4 p.m. Set your phone alarms for what has now become a tradition, the crash of the Airfix website.
There's too many people trying to log on.
Aircraft news, as announced on the Sprue Cutters Union podcast, Edward will be releasing a 172nd scale P51D Mustang. I guess we can consider it as a scaled-down version of their 48 scale kit, as it will appear with the same markings and versions of the larger kits.
Oh, nice.
The DBMK 132nd scale Hawker Sea Fury is getting closer. They have just sent off the CAD data to their toolmaker. No turning back now. Border Model have confirmed/announced 3 new 35th scale aircraft kits for 2024. We already had an idea about the first 2, but the third one is a surprise. So first up, we've got the Supermarine Spitfire, the Mark 5B. Only box art, no CAD renders for this one. And I'd just like to get in first and say, oh no, why did they do a Mark 5B? They should do the Mark 5C, as it has way more options. You know, the usual stuff whenever anyone releases a Spitfire. Moving on, there's a Mitsubishi A6 M20, as the box says, with interior of engine and weapons.
Quote unquote.
Yep.
The CAD renders show lots of recessed riveting and lapped skins. One complaint is that the cannons protrude slightly from the wing, which is incorrect for the Zero. Admittedly, it's an easy fix. Can't help but think this Zero will look very nice sitting next to Border's Akagi Island, possibly less expensive alternative to their Kate torpedo bomber. And finally, the big surprise, the Heinkel HE111H6 German medium bomber. No box art, but this one had plenty of CAD renders. It is very, very detailed with full interior, including the bomb cells. The skin features recessed and raised riveting and exhibits subtle oil canning. Detailed engines are included, and certain panels can be left off for display. Ordnance is provided in the form of bombs and torpedoes. Is it accurate? ? Haven't heard anything negative just yet, but let's give it time.
The CAD does look really stunning.
It does.
But it is CAD.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's easy to make the glazing look all really clear and shiny, and it really looks impressive, especially with that nose on the HE111.
With these releases, it seems Border Models are very serious about pushing 135th scale as the new aviation scale. Can't help but notice that no one else seems to be joining them, though. Before anybody says, what about? Well, helicopters don't count. Speaking of, Takem will be releasing their 35th scale Bell AH-1W Whiskey Cobra attack helicopter. At the same venue where the Cobra was announced, Takem will showing a 3D print of their previously announced 35th scale Russian Mil Mi-28 Havoc attack helicopter, so that's still coming. Zukimura have done a bit of their own silhouette work, teasing 2 new 32nd aircraft kits. The aircraft concerned are the P-51A/A-36 Apache and a T-28 Trojan. Oh, Trojan in 30 is going to look awesome. Not
If
sure.
you say so, Dave.
Oh, I love the Trojan. I reckon it's awesome.
Someone has to.
Not sure what they plan to do with the P-51, but the Trojan will be produced in variants A through D. In 2024, Revell will be releasing a new tool, 72nd scale kit of the Lockheed Martin F-35A Lightning II. Everyone says how boring the F-35 is, but there ain't many complaints that haven't added companies that haven't added the F-35 to their catalogue, so somebody must be buying them. Revell are re-releasing a 72nd scale Blom & Voss BV 222 and a Narado AR 555. They are reboxing the ICM 72nd scale KI 21 1A Sally.
Oh, that's interesting.
The Gloucester Media F3 planned for release in 2023 is being held over for 2024. The release date is to be determined. Clearpop will be releasing both 48 scale and 72nd scale kits of the Culver PQ14. Not sure the PQ14 would be at the top of many people's wish lists, but I hope it does okay for Clearprop. Special Hobby are re-releasing their 72nd scale Heinkel HE59 float plane. There will be a new clear sprue, PE fret, and quite a bit of resin detailed parts.
Oh, nice.
ICM have released their 24 catalogue announcing their products for the new year. There will be 2 48 scale kits of the Black Hawk helicopter. Ooh. A UH-60L US Army transport helicopter and an MH-60A Special Forces helicopter. You have plenty of time to save up. They won't be released until the final quarter of 2024. As we knew, the ICM 48 scale B-26 Marauder had been held over until March 2024. The good news is that ICM have announced 2 further boxings, one with USAAF pilots and ground personnel, which will come in the second quarter of 2024, and the famous flak bait, which will be available in the fourth quarter 2024.
Oh.
The bad news is that the price has been increased by £20.
Ooh, that's a big jump.
It is. LF models will follow up on their 72nd scale kit of the Westland Wasp helicopter, the Royal Navy one with a 72nd scale Westland Scout, the Army one. The Scout kit provides parts for external stretchers and wide-guided missiles. You can't have both at once, though. It frightens the patients. Trumpers 2024-25 catalogue has just come out. Their catalogue can be a bit confusing, as they often list kits as new that had been announced way back when, sometimes years ago. For instance, 72nd MiG-19 is listed as a new release, but it was announced at least 10 years ago and still hasn't been released. Taking all that into account, here's what is marked as new in the catalogue. In the aircraft category, in 24th scale, we have a Republic P-47D Razorback, a P-47D Bubble Canopy, P-47D Bubble Canopy with fin fillet, and a P-47N. In 32nd scale, a Lockheed S3 Viking, a Focke-Wulf FW190A6, and an FW190A8.
Oh, a Viking in 32 scale. Now, that's interesting.
In 48 scale, we have the Fairey Fulmar Mark II, Fairey Battle Mark I, the Stormovic single-seat version, FW190A6, FWA2 in 2 boxings, an Su-25 Frogfoot A, Russian...
Hang on, did you say FWA2? That should be there, Focke-Wulf 190.
Yeah, bigger pardon.
A8 in 2 boxings.
A8 in 2 boxings. Su-25 Frogfoot A, a Russian MiG-35, Me-109 E3, and an E4 and an E7, an F-35 A, B, and C, as well as a B-24 Liberator, all in 48 scale. Naval news. Revell will release a new tool, 1/144th scale Type 9/40 U-boat, which would be the U-190. For Art, formerly For Hobby, or is that vice versa? Anyway, For Something will be releasing a 1/35th scale kit of the Royal Navy's Type 42 destroyer. Oh, excellent. The Type 42s are probably best known for their participation in the Falklands War, some with more success than others. You cheeky Falcon. CAD looks good, though some have noted the top of the forward turret looks a little bit flat. The hull is split horizontally, allowing the choice of full hull or waterline display options. And Dave, don't pretend to be excited about this release. Nobody's buying it. We all know you have completely forsaken ships in favour of rockets. In fact, I heard a rumour maybe, I'm starting one, that you have sold all your ship kits, so you'll be buying more rockets. I'm going to pluck a feather off that Falcon, I'm telling you. Civil vehicles, Revell have a few new tool cars coming out in 2024. You can keep scrolling, Julian. There's nothing that you would be interested in. There's
that's not true, because Revell do make some more recent-ish car kits that I could be convinced to build.
Well, there's a 24th scale Lamborghini
Revelto,
which is out in September. A 25th scale Corvette C8 due for October. And the Stranger Things Chevrolet K5 Blazer pickup truck is due out in October.
Yeah.
In 24th scale comes the Fendit 728 Vario, which I thought might be an obscure German sports car, but no, it's a tractor.
Oh.
Military vehicles and equipment news. AFV Club have shown the built-up kit of their forthcoming M51 A2 5-ton dump truck. Look for that one in a month or two. And ring-a-ding-a-ding, we might have a scoop for On the Bench. Came across this while searching for bargains on Model Retailer's website, a site which has a form announcing new products prematurely and listed as coming soon. AFV Club 35th scale Ordnance QF 17-pounder anti-tank gun, a 135th scale US Army 75mm pack howitzer, the M1A1, a British QF 25-pounder howitzer Mark II, and a new, sure to please a lot of people, 135th scale Army M8 howitzer motor carriage.
Ooh.
People have been hoping AFE kit would get around doing the M8 HMC as they already do the M5 Stuart, on which the M8 is largely based. It may be finally happening. So hopefully these coming soon announcements will turn out to be the real deal. The kit numbers that they've actually added next to those kits make it seem plausible, so fingers crossed. Tacom have announced, or beg your pardon, Tacom have shown CAD renders of 3 35th scale Hetzer variants, a command version with interior and winter kitten tracks, a Flampanzer 38-ton flamethrower tank, and a Flak Panzer 38-ton
Kugelblitz.
Not sure if this is a paper Panzer, even, I think it was a paper Panzer. Was contemplated back in 44, 45, but because it's German, we're going to get the kit of it, whatever we want to do or not. 3 kits that are slated for release in February 2024. ICM have announced 3 new 35th scale military kits. There's a Burma Jeep Mark I, a Humvee M109 7A2, and a Flak 38 World War II German anti-aircraft cannon. The Humvee will be available in the second quarter of 2024, and the Burma Jeep in the third quarter. Don't know when the Flak 38 will go on sale. Many have announced a standalone boxing of their 35th scale US Army Ben-Hur trailer. There are 5 decal options, mostly World War II, but one is for the Korea War. And there were no Dragon re-release announcements this week. They must be on holidays. That's all from now from the Falcon.
Fantastic. Lots of goodies.
You guys got any news at all?
No.
Julian?
Someone posted on Facebook. I think it's like a model kit of like some samurai. I forgot who made the model, but it was very peculiar because it had 4 sprues all attached to each other vertically.
Huh. Oh, yes. Now, I did see that. It almost looked like a Borg.
Borg cube.
Borg cube. And
really?
Yeah, but basically, if you can imagine, because it's like a cube-shaped box that it comes in, right? But when you lift the sprue out, you lift all of them out because they're all attached to each other. They're stacked up like floors on in a 4-story building.
What? Geez, when do they do the molds for that?
Well, that's exactly what I asked. I posed the same question. How the heck do they do that molding? Because it would be very challenging, and there's not much space between the sprues either.
I mean, it's not like you couldn't do it, but I don't think there's any way you could do it without it just being a gimmick for the sake of, look, there's 4 sprues attached to each other. Because you still got to break the molds apart, right? And get the pieces out. And then somehow sandwich this to another one.
You've got to unattach all the sprues from each other.
And not only that, you've got more complications in regards to differential cooling of the actual part, because the centerpieces would have to be cooled better than it's easier to cool the outside of the mold than the inside for those centerpieces. So,
like, the only thing I can think of is that they just did it for gimmickry, just so that they can, look, it's all
maybe they must, I don't know. Because and doing it that way also horrendously complicate the die.
The thing I could think of as well is all your small fragile bits you keep in the centre 2 sprues. So use the outer 2 sprues as protection, because you're not going to have anything. It's going to be like one block sitting inside the box, rather than have all separate sprues rubbing against each other.
Yeah, I'd love to get a look at that die. It would be very interesting.
Yeah, totally agree.
Anyway. All right, we've got a conversation lined up with Mr. Jim Bates, so how about we roll over and see what he's up to. And I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation about the model show that they run out of Seattle, so stand by for that. And that gives me great pleasure to introduce Jim Bates, who has popped on the show to have a talk about shows without competitions. And I'm really excited to have this discussion, because we just earlier on we had a listener mail from one of our guys up in Ballarat, which is a regional city here in Victoria, who also says they have a show and they get about 500 models, which is a lot
for that
just
area,
for a one-day event and for the area. So, Jim, how are you, mate?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Yeah, good.
Been a while. We haven't chatted directly since, when we were over in the US and we caught up at that time.
Yeah, it was the U.S., and then I was on kind of tangentially because you called Kentucky Dave at one of the Nats.
Yeah.
And I just put me in their room. So, of course, I weighed in.
Hey, why not?
So how you been? What you been doing?
I will start out that we once had 3,030 models at our show, and we will never do that again.
It'd be a logistical nightmare.
It was a logistical nightmare. We got to the point that we were like renting vehicles to get people's stuff there. We had one guy who had this crazy collection. That was 2012. And I have said we're never doing that again.
Well, let's take a step back, Jim, and actually let listeners know what we're talking about. So what's the name of the show? Where is it? When is it held? Who operates it? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so the show, some of those questions are hard to answer and some are easy to answer.
Oh, okay.
The show takes place generally President's Day weekend at the Museum of Flight, which is in Seattle. We can say that. It's actually slightly a suburb of Seattle. The name of the show has kind of been ever-changing, but recently we've been calling it Model Mania. At some ways, it's the Northwest Scale Modeler Show. That's the name of the club that puts it on, and we are an unaffiliated club that meets at the Museum of Flight on the first Thursday of every month. And we put this show on. It's not an IPMS show. It's completely independent, and we do it once in February, and then we have a really, really, really small one that we call the mini show in November usually. And the goal of this is twofold. One is to drive attendance to the museum and get people through the doors on what would otherwise be a probably rainy February weekend.
Well, isn't that every day in Seattle, though?
Is not every day in Seattle. So, I don't know what your guys' weather is like, but we may get rain most days, but it's not constantly raining like you see on TV. Now, I'm not saying it's never like that. Today's one of those days. But we get a little bit of rain. We'll go through all the seasons in an afternoon. That's pretty normal.
Well, it's
like
funny.
Melbourne.
I've been to Seattle, and I absolutely love the place. I reckon it's a gorgeous city, and except all the damn ferries you got to catch to sort of get anywhere. But apart from that, the weather is very, very similar to Melbourne. It reminded me very much so of home. It really did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I moved here because it doesn't snow and it doesn't get too hot, and we've had a little bit of snow, and we now occasionally hit 90. So I was completely misinformed. But the other point of the show is kind of just to celebrate modeling, and I see it kind of an outreach to expose the hobby to people. And one of my goals in life, this kind of started. So it started basically, we think about 33 years ago. The first time I have any data for it is 1999, and it was around 1,200 models, and then it's just kind of been all over the place ever since then. Like in 2008, it was 600. Last year, we had about 2,400. We're a little bit at the mercy of the museum. Because basically set everything up for us, and if the museum gets a big time money making, somebody's going to give them a lot of money to rent this great gallery, which is what we call where we hold the show on a Friday night. Sometimes we get pulled out of the sequence, and I don't want to get up at 4 a.m. and start loading models in on a Saturday morning. I don't think anybody wants to do that.
No, not at all.
And I had heard Julian had said something about the museum. So what the Great Gallery is it's a big kind of glass structure that has a ton of airplanes hanging from the ceiling, and I'm going to call it an SR-71, and everybody's going to correct me. I think it's actually an A-12 Blackbird, and we set up just row and row of model tables underneath the Blackbird.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool.
And I'll send you guys over some pictures if you want to see.
Oh, yeah,
but
definitely.
Like there's a, the museum in Hamilton has a show, Heritage Con.
Yeah.
I still think we might be a little bit better, but they have a Lancaster. We have a Blackbird, so it depends if you like jets or props. I'm a little more biased towards a Lancaster myself. But the museum is one of the largest. It's probably, depending on how you parse it, the largest private aviation museum in the United States. There's a museum down in Pima in Arizona that kind of skates on a technicality. It's kind of a private museum, but it's also somewhat involved by the city, so we kind of just yada them away. They might be bigger. But the Museum of Flight, and it's not called the Boeing Museum, people like to call it that, has an amazing collection of everything from the first Boeing aircraft to there's a 787 and everything in between. Dave, when you were here, did you get a chance to go to the museum?
No, I'm just trying to think why I was there. I was sort of passing through. I was driving down from I drove from Vancouver down through Washington and hit Seattle because I was going to catch a flight the next day to go somewhere else. I was on a study tour. So modelling was sort of not on my mind at that particular point. And I think I stayed out near where there's a big car museum or something out that way.
I live in Tacoma, and there's a big car museum not far from me.
It was Tacoma where I was staying, yeah, right. And I could see the big car museum where I was staying. Yeah,
there's a really nice car museum. I think it's called the LeMay Car Museum, and I've only been there, but I've heard they've got a storage barn that's even better. So I need to get my butt over there sometime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of in an amazing place here because we have a lot of aviation history. We have maybe two of the best aviation museums in the world. One is, of course, the Museum of Flight, and the other one used to be Paul Allen's Flying Heritage Collection and Combat Armor Museum. And I'm not sure what its name is right now, but it's open again. It was bought by one of the Walmart kids, or, well, one of the Walmart heirs, let's say it that way. And it just... And then, as I said, I can't really see it from here, but if buildings weren't in the way, I could see it here. An amazing car museum. There's a Air Force base just south of me with a couple museums on it. So we have just, one of the things that's nice about coming here is we've got a great hobby shop and we've got all these museums. The problem is, 2-day show, you can barely look at all the models and get through the Museum of Flight in those 2 days.
Yes.
Well, not just that. I mean, I remember being absolutely gobsmacked because I was driving, and as I drove around this bend along one of your coastal roads, I turned the corner. There's all these aircraft carriers sort of sitting there as I came around the bend, and I'm going, oh.
Yeah, that's over in Bremerton. We have a naval shipyard over there. I was over there 2 weeks ago, and I think there's only one carrier left. I think the Nimitz might be there.
Right.
But yeah, at one point they had like 3 or 4 decommissioned carriers, and I guess those have all got towed away and sunk or scrapped or whatever they do. We also have another. So there's an Air Force base just south of me, and then there's a Navy base with all these Super Hornets just north of me. So I constantly am looking out the window at C-17s flying over, and I've seen some pictures somewhere down where you guys are. They had a big celebration, and they were kind of weaving through the city.
Oh, that was in
It's
Queensland.
not quite like that, but I get an air show over my house quite regularly, which I'm not complaining about. And if we're really lucky, some of the jets show up. But we're just kind of steep because Boeing was here, and for the longest time, they built a lot of aircraft here. They still built a lot of 737s, and I think, what else are they building? 777s. So I think that's why we have such a vibrant model community in this area, is you got a lot of engineers, you got a lot of aviation fans.
Yeah.
Last year, let me just check, we had, how many modelers participate? We had 99 exhibiting modelers last year at our show. And just for some background, I was kind of the understudy. I don't even know when I started being the understudy. Tim Nelson, who I refer to as Too Tall Tim, he ran the show for many, many, many years and basically handed it over to me. And I ran it for the first time last year. I'm doing it again. And kind of my goal has always been, it started out as more of an airplane show, and I just want to expand to all genres of modeling. So last year we had a Gundam display for the first time ever. We had a Gundam make and take for the kids. We're repeating that this year. We've got a hobby shop up in Vancouver who are giving us some of these amazing Gundam kits that you can just kind of snap off the sprue.
Yeah.
Like spending my whole life being taught, don't snap them off, cut them. And then you're handing one of these Gundam kits, and you're like, "This is pretty amazing." You can snap them right off and pull them. Those of us who are a little more serious might clean them up a bit, but it's pretty amazing what Gundam or what Bandai's been able to do. So Saturday we're having a make and take, and basically what it is we have a lot of tables full of models. We display kind of weirdly by modeler instead of by category.
Oh, okay.
That's a good idea.
That'd be. Oh,
If you guys were to come, it'd be the on the bench table. Some modelers like me who don't build as much have one table. We've got one modeler who's requested 10 tables that he's going to fill with armor and giant crap.
What's he hiring? He's hiring a truck to bring his kits, is he?
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, honestly. And he keeps saying he's getting too old for this, and I'm like, dude, I'm younger than you, and I'm already too old for that. We've got and we've got everything from like the Gundam guys. We don't really have any paper modelers. I wish we had some of those. We had a guy show up last year who makes everything from like a hydroplane boat to Star Wars ships to he had a Saturn, all made out of, and I'm going to say matchsticks, but I think they're wooden skewers. And these were more art than model.
Yeah.
They were amazing.
Yeah, I've seen those.
So I'm just trying to include anybody who makes scale reproductions. It's kind of fun to see all the different stuff, and it's mostly plastic models, but anybody who wants to come is welcome. I wish we could get some paper models in there because some of those are amazing.
Oh yeah.
The Gundam guys, we have as everybody does. It seems to me all the younger guys are into their sci-fi.
Yes.
So we've got a lot of sci-fi subjects. We have a club here with the weird name of Galaxy Exiles. That was a hobby shop that used to exist, and they're a sci-fi club. We draw from Northwest Scale Modeler, as I said, is a non-affiliated club that meets the museum. IPMS Seattle's actually one of the bigger IPMS chapters in the United States. I think they're somewhere between 80 and 100 members. We have an AMPS chapter here, which is the armor guys, and then we have these Galaxy Exiles. And it's just kind of a Big Ten event to get, everybody together and enjoy modeling. And one of the things I love about it is because it's not a contest, people bring like the first model they built and their last masterpiece. And it's so amazing to see, somebody who's an amazing modeler today.
Yeah.
And you see their first model they built when they were 8 years old.
Yeah,
It's just, it's awesome. And and I want to include all skill levels, everything from award-winning IPMS modelers to just people starting out. We've got some younger modelers that attend, and it's just kind of Big Ten event to just show the joy of the hobby and take away all the contest side. And then the other thing we do is we usually have a huge row of tables where we've got 20, 30 modelers sitting there building things. So you can, ask the modeler a question, interact with the modelers. I know that can be scary sometimes. We have to interact with the public. And we're just lucky, we've got everybody from, families to modelers, photographers, everybody's coming through the museum. And because we're in this beautiful venue, I think we attract a lot of people, and it's been good to grow the club that, people, especially during COVID, got back into modeling, and now they come to the show and they display. And one of the things I've always kind of ranted against is IPMS, and I think this is across the board, but IPMS tends to be a small subset of modelers, and my goal in life is just to include everybody. And I like to brag, and I think this is true. We are the largest show outside the Nats in the United States. And I think my stats said we had 2,400 models on display last year. And then we add some seminars. We usually have a speaker come in. This year, I believe, and this is not set in stone, but it's going to be Chris Buchholz, who's an author from California. And he's going to be talking something about the Tuskegee Airmen. He's also a great modeler. So it's just trying to celebrate the joy of the hobby. And our seminars are including everything from like the history of Gundam to how to make your own decals. You guys can come over and teach us how to use, what's the food that the guy was talking about, using as a masking agent.
Vegemite.
Yeah, using Vegemite as a masking. I'd like you guys to come over and show us how to do that sometime. Because I'm not even really sure what Vegemite is. And the only downside, and I'm going to throw Kentucky Dave under the bus, this is why he won't come. We don't have vendors. Because we're in the museum, even though the museum shop doesn't sell models, we're not allowed to have sales at the show. So that's really the only downside. Now, the good news is we have a really good hobby shop. It's about a 5-7 minute drive from the museum. If you need to stimulate the economy, you can still do that. But that's really, I think for a few people, that's a little bit of a downside. But what I love about it, if it's just really relaxed, it's a big social event. There's no stress because there's no awards, which is a little bit of a lie. We let the curator, Matthew, pick one model as a winner. And then we just started last year. We lost one of our big kind of stalwart members of IPMS and modeling in the Seattle area, Terry Moore, who was a friend of mine. And we decided to do a best B-17 because that was his favorite plane. So we now do 2 awards, and we make the curator choose them. And it's nice because there's no judging, there's no nothing. Nobody's coming to complain about why didn't my model win, because nobody's model win. And I think about not having that competition there, we see more of a nice collection of what people bring. Because I usually bring everything I have here, and I would never do that to an IPMS show because I got a few models here that never should see a contest ever. And I just think it's kind of laid back. And I think it's just an interesting concept to me that we have all these model events and they almost tend to be contests. And I'm sure that scares off some people. I'm sure that this show scares off some people because nobody's winning some awards.
Yeah, I think you're sort of right there because there's a couple of points to that. Number one, I mean, I've spoken to a number of people who have said, look, I don't feel up to entering my model into a competition because I don't think it's good enough. And whereas the display that you guys put on, and also as we just recently learned, the guys up in Ballarat here in Victoria who put on their show, because it's display only, you're happy to bring your warts and all out as well. So I'd never think about bringing some of my stuff out because, you know he's going to get photographed and put on Facebook and all that. And It's like going out on the date, you know what I mean? You don't want to show your sort of your worst side, whereas if it's purely display only, there's no pressure on you. You can bring all of your stuff with you. You can bring all your collection of, I don't know, Sherman tanks, if that's what your thing is, without having to worry about it. And you're just bringing it for the pure pleasure of showing off what you've done.
Right. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm a pretty mediocre modeler. And I've always said when I go to contests, this isn't really up to snuff. Well, I don't care about display only. I'll take everything because it's not judged. And I think in some ways we're all our own worst enemies.
Yeah.
But it's one of these things where why not, expose it? And I think one of the things it does, and I don't have any data for this, but it's always been my theory that if you drop somebody who's just starting out into, the IPMS Nationals or one of your big shows, they might get overwhelmed. Whereas here, when you see everything from, the first model a guy built to his award winner, you can see, wow, I can improve and I can get better and I can do all this stuff. It's not just, people came out of the womb with this amazing talent, though there appear to be a few people who do.
Yes.
The other thing I love about what you guys are doing is that it's you're taking all forms of genre and putting it on display, whereas and this is something we've been banging on for the last couple of years now with Gundams and with science fiction and real space and all that sort of stuff, not having it all a mecha, not having it all lumped in the same category. It's time for the other parts of the hobby to be celebrated just as much as the armor and the aircraft are being celebrated.
Well, and I take a slightly different view in that we have no choice but to do that. If we want to grow the hobby, I don't think the younger kids are as into the stuff we maybe all grew up with.
Correct.
Spot on. 100%. 100%.
If I want to attract new people and they want to build sci-fi or they want to build mecha or they want to build Gundam, it's still modeling.
Yep.
It's putting things together.
Yep.
The only people I like to give a hard time to are the car modelers, but that's, just because I'm not a good person. I don't love my cars. But, I want everything there. I don't just want an airplane show. I want airplanes, cars, spaceships.
Exactly. So I want to see. I want to have a look at all the different stuff. What a boring world would it be if we all just built aircraft? I mean, come on.
Right. And we've got a guy here, Bill Huffman, who does these amazing dioramas, and he also does amazing woodwork with his dioramas. And I'm just blown away that he starts building. His most recent one is some crazy diorama that's multiple stories, and it started because he built a Meng armored car from, I guess, World War One, one of those Royal Naval Air Service, and it creates this whole thing. And I'm like, damn, I'm not creative. I just build my airplane or build my tank, and then I'm done with it. And I love seeing the dioramas. We used to have a couple guys who brought their 1/1 scale R2D2s, which were both. It was kind of a double-edged sword because they're running around and knocking tables, but the kids love that stuff.
Yes.
And I think we need to admit that we're all kind of older guys, but the 20, 30-year-olds are building the sci-fi, the mecha.
Yep.
They're not as into the World War II airplanes that a lot of us are.
Yep.
So I made the choice to include all this stuff simply because I want to get everybody involved.
Yep. 100%. How many people did you get through the door over the weekend?
Hold on, let me check. So last year, the average daily attendance was a little under 3,000 people a day last year.
What?
Year before, it was 1900. We took a couple breaks for COVID. Before COVID, we had 2,300 people through the door each day. And that's why the museum likes us is, and I don't want to say numbers, but I think it's something like their attendance regularly is like 500, 700 people. And we do the show and it pretty much double, triples, or quadruples.
Yeah.
So I see that also as we're helping this museum that we want to stay in Seattle and not move away or go bankrupt and getting people through the door. And I think that's where I'm kind of surprised that museums aren't more interested in doing this. There's a history museum kind of down the street from me here in Tacoma that during Christmas they do a model train concept. They just get all the model train clubs to come in and set up through the kind of through the show or through the museum. I think that's a cool concept. I'm just amazed that a lot of museums don't want to bring third parties in, that they get more attendance.
Yeah.
And I know the museum is awesome to us. I have the best gig in the world because this show basically costs our club nothing.
Brilliant.
Some postage, or not postage, some printing for flyers, and I usually pay for that, or we pass the can around. But really, we put on this show, we get all these models, and the museum gets the tables. They often set up the tables for us. We usually have to break down Sunday, but it's a great kind of partnership because it gets people in the door for them, and their attendance goes up. And the one cool thing, if you display at the show, you get in free for 2 days. So you bring your 2 or 3 models, you put it on the table, and you get to come to the museum and enjoy all it has to offer for a couple days. And it's just a great partnership. And that has nothing to do with me. I want to thank our forefathers 30 years ago who made this great deal with the museum.
Sure.
And it's amazing the museum still honors it all these years later.
There's a cafe and everything there, and parking, plenty of parking in the cafe and food.
There is a cafe with food. Parking is getting interesting. I once said that I wanted to get 5,000 people through the door a day, and the museum said, kind of slow down on that because we don't know if we have enough parking space for that. But there are 2 big lots with the museum. The museum's kind of a campus. It started out as getting into a little Boeing history. The first kind of building that Boeing was set up in was called the Red Barn.
Right.
And that kind of fell into decay, and that's part of the museum. And then they built this great gallery, and then they bought a museum of World War II planes out of Arizona, and that's called the Personal Courage Wing. So that's one side of the museum.
Yes.
Then across the street, and there's a beautiful bridge over, there's more parking. There's a B-52 sitting in a park. And then there's a space building, which is completely contained. They tried to get the space shuttle, and that didn't happen. So they've got a space shuttle trainer and some Soyuz capsules and things like that. And then they have to kind of, you would like it, Dave. They've got kind of this lean-to indoor-outdoor hangar they eventually want to close in that's got a B-17, B-29, B-47, 787. There's a Concorde there. And they're sort of inside-outside at this point. So there's so much to see, even excluding all the models. And there's parking on both.
And we're just looking at the website now, the Museum of Flight, and there's also a World War II model collection.
There is. And that's something, if you ever, and it's actually World War I and World War II, if you ever come, this one guy, I think his name was Holtgrew.
Correct.
He built basically one of everything. They are not competition-style models, but they're still pretty well done. But like he's got almost every aircraft in World War II from all the powers. So everything from, what's a DC-4 or one of those big flying boats to a Wirraway to, some weird Austro-Hungary aircraft I don't even know. So that's really cool too. My only complaint with the Personal Courage Wing is they did that museum thing of painting everything black. So you put like a Corsair or a Wildcat dark blue in there. It's kind of hard to see.
It disappears into the background.
Yeah, but it's an amazing collection. That museum model collection is great. The other thing we as a club do is we have 2 display cases that are right outside the cafe. And no, Kentucky Dave, we don't have beer. Actually, you probably can buy beer there now that I think about it. There's no bourbon, but there might be beer. We have 2 display cases that we fill with rotating aircraft model displays every year. So right now we have a Sabre display, and then that's coming out. The Sabre display's there now. Previous to that, we had assembly ships of World War II, so all the funky painted B-17s and B-24s. And the next one is nothing but MiGs used by other operators. So we spend a lot of our time building models for this case, which is a double-edged sword because it's almost like you're a commission builder, but nobody's giving you any money.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're doing it for free.
Like if the museum wants to kick me a few bucks, I might be more excited about it. But that's so it's really nice to just have this vibrant community and have the ability to put on what I always dreamed as what a model show should look like. Somewhere, and I don't really remember where this was, but I remember going to a model show in a mall and thought it was so cool. And I've kind of just scaled this idea, and it's not me, I just took it over, but the club scaled this idea up, and it's just a model outreach. Let's talk about scale modeling. Let's look at builders. And it is interesting to have a lot of people come in. Oh yeah, I build models, but I'm not very good. And I'm like, no, you're good. There's no such thing as a bad finished model. The only bad models are the ones. Well, they're all over here in closets that aren't built. Those are really the only bad models.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yes, I do have models in my kitchen. So,
Michelle will kill me if I try doing something like that.
Well. You guys can see behind me and nobody else can. There's what most people would call the liquor cabinet. It's actually full of models rather than booze. That's a good choice.
It is, yes.
And of course, just down the road from you guys, you got the Tillamook Museum down in Portland.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a drive. It's about 3 hours. There's
great
also
place.
There's another museum in the Portland area called Hood River, which is stunningly amazing and kind of runs out of the radar. It's mostly civilian aircraft, and they basically have almost everything American from the 1930s through to like all the Piper Cubs, all the Aeroncas, and then they have maybe 1,000 car collection as well.
Oh, wow.
It's an amazing museum that actually is a little overwhelming, and it's at a little airport called Hood River. And then the Tillamook Museum, it's on the coast. And then the other museum we have that's just south of Portland is the Evergreen Museum with the spruce goose.
Oh,
that's right, yes.
Well, I discovered Tillamook by accident because I was just driving down the coast. I was heading down to San Fran, I think, from memory. I was going somewhere. And out of nowhere, there's this great big, huge hangar sort of just pops up on the horizon. And, of course, being an aircraft sort of nut, you go, what the heck's that? And, where they had the airships, obviously, and they've got a P-38, they've got Corsairs, and some of it's still in flying condition too, which is amazing.
So, that's a little bit old. A bunch of those aircraft were owned by a really rich guy, and he moved them to a city called Madras, Oregon. But the Tillamook Museum is there, and it's got some cool aircraft. It's got an F-14, an A-26 Invader. But to me, what's amazing is that hangar. What I tell everybody is, so it's a World War II wooden hangar built for airships. It's all wood. There used to be 2 of them, and go see it soon because it could burn down any day.
That's the problem. Yeah.
And just standing there and looking around at how big this is and think this is all made out of wood.
Yeah.
I kind of like architecture too, so I really enjoyed. There's a guppy
at the front.
What is a guppy made out of? The Boeing 337 turned into a guppy out front, which is awesome, and it's cool. You can walk through that, and then this architecture of this museum's great. But you could very easily take 5-6 days and fill them looking at airplanes in this area if you want to drive a little bit. And I think, to be totally honest, I kind of take the museum flight for granted because I'm there 2, 3, 4 times a month. And it's always fun to see somebody walk in for the first time and, their eyes get big. And, see all the stuff is there. And I'm just like, I've seen that SR-71 80 million times. But yeah, we are for a while we had a ton of flying warbirds here because the Flying Heritage stuff used to fly, and maybe it will again. But yeah, we've got a lot of cool things to look at. So it's cool, kind of cool to live in an area with a lot of aviation. Now, we do have a downside here. Our traffic is vicious. So it's hard to see all these things. So I live in Tacoma, which should be like a 30-minute drive south of Seattle, and that sometimes can take an hour. So that's the one downside of this area, our roads, because one whole side of us is the sound. And then the other thing we haven't talked about, we have beautiful, like I've got a mountain out my window, I've got water out that way. It's just a beautiful place. And if the ferries work, you can take a ferry ride, which is really fun. But as you kind of hinted earlier, they can be sketchy sometimes.
Ask me how I know, and being somebody who's never been there before, so getting from one part of Seattle across to the other, and you're sort of following the road. And this is in the days before
Uber.
Before
Google Maps
and everything. So you're following this map along, and next minute the road stops and there's a ferry waiting for you, or you've got to wait for the ferry to come and continue your journey. It was crazy.
Yeah. We had a fun experience here. Where you were going to, you were in Bremerton, but there's a few islands that are only accessible by ferry. And at one point, one of the ferries ran into the dock, and it wasn't accessible by ferry for a few weeks while they fixed that. And I kind of think, like all public transit, it's a little bit underfunded. So the schedules are kind of merely suggestive sometimes. And I'm a lawyer in real life, and if I have to go somewhere for court, I'm like, okay, it says there's a 10 o'clock. I better take the 9 just in case there's really a 10 o'clock. Because you don't want to show up and say, hey, Judge, the ferry was late, because that's not a good excuse.
No.
But yeah, I think what I would, kind of my dream world is to see more displays. And one thing I have said, and I'll throw this out even to any of your listeners, if anybody is interested in how we do this, they can always contact me, and basically I'll franchise what we do and tell everybody how to do it. But the great thing is, this is the best part. At no point during the weekend am I stressed if we have enough judges. You don't need judges.
Oh, yes.
Yes. You're not. Nobody's running around saying, "Hey, Dave. Hey, Ian. Hey, Julian. You need to judge right now because we don't have anybody." Never do it. You can just sit and.
You're having just as good a time as everybody else there.
Well, I'm kind of high anxiety, so maybe I'm not, but everybody else is having a great time. And last year freaked me out because we literally ran out of tables before. What we do is we cut the show off. The museum opens at 10 o'clock, so everybody needs to have their models on display at before 10. And at 15, 20 minutes to 10, I'm freaking out because there's literally no table space. And I'm expanding a little bit, but there's only so much footprint that there is. I can only put so many tables. And when they did the 3,000 models, they just had long rows of tables. And I'm not a big fan of that. You've got to have some break.
Well, that's interesting you should say that. That's really interesting because we were at ACT show in November last year, and they had round tables, they had long tables, and they all weren't connected. They were all separated by category, but it was a really great way of being able to look at the models on display because you could walk right round the tables and look down into them and look at them from a different angle. Whereas, you think about your larger shows where they're all sort of got streets all set up. And you just walk down the street and you check the models either side. Not only are you bumping into all the other people who are stopping to sort of look, but you're missing stuff and you're missing the models at the back of the table. And I thought it was great the way to have it as separate.
We have that same problem. I don't have a solution for that because the amount of it'd be awesome to just have rows of tables without backing them table to table. But then you're cutting down on space. Yeah. So I think the problem, and one of the things I hear, and I don't know if you guys have talked about it, but a lot of the IPMS clubs are running into problems finding venues they can afford.
Oh, and it's the same here.
Seattle's not a cheap area, and venues that used to be affordable are slowly getting more and more expensive because apparently, weddings and all this stuff, there's unlimited money for that stuff. And my biggest fear, and I hope nobody from the museum has listened to this, is someday they want to charge us for this, and then we're hosed. Got no money. Northwest Scale Modelers is kind of the weirdest club in that we have no officers, we have no dues, we have no nothing. We just get together one Tuesday a month and talk models. It's kind of nice, but any day if the museum says, "Hey guys, you're out," or the museum closes, we've got no money to pay for a venue or do any of this stuff. So I am thankful every day that our partnership with the Museum of Flight continues. And that's why I kind of look at it as I want to make them happy. I want to get as many people through the door every year.
Sure.
Now, here's the only thing, and I don't know if this has ever happened at a model show before, maybe Heritage Con, but there's things hanging from the ceiling, and they've been up there probably 30 years. One of the DC3s, because they have to mark their territory, actually dripped oil last year onto somebody's model. A DC3 that's been up in the rafters for 30 years has still got oil dripping from it, and that is the most DC3 thing I've ever heard.
Well, I think if something fell from the sky and landed on them, I'd rather be crapped on by a DC3 than a seagull, I think.
There you go.
It's good bragging rights anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would take that as a win.
Yeah. So give us the elevator pitch for the show: where, when, who, how much, rah.
Okay, so it is February 17th and 18th, 2024. It goes Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We call it Model Mania. It's put on by the Northwest Scale Modelers. It's at the Museum of Flight, which is 9804 East Marginal Way, Seattle, Washington, USA. As I said, we'll have a make and take for Gundams on Saturday, and I got to thank my sponsor, I Build Robots CA. He put up the kits. And it's just a celebration of modeling. If you are a display modeler, you get in the museum free. If you're just coming to see it, you pay whatever normal museum admission is. That's probably around $20. I don't know exactly. And if you bring your own models, everybody comes and sees me, gets a free wristband, and they're in the museum for free if they display. The only thing I ask is if you are bringing a lot of models, like over 4 tables of models, hit me up ahead of time.
Yeah.
And that way I can do that. And if you're looking for more information, we have a website at nwsm.club. And that has the flyers and all the information for the show and all the information for our meetings and our display builds for the museum.
Cool.
Fantastic.
And any Facebook, anything like that as well, or not?
Yeah, there is a Northwest Scale Modelers group on Facebook, and over this weekend, I will be spamming every Facebook group I can find to put the flyer in. And it reminds me, I might not be a member of your guys' new Facebook group, so I'll join that up and I'll drop one in there as well.
Please do.
Yeah, sounds great.
So, because, my goal is to get the word out. We've had modelers, well, mostly it's Americans, Canadians. We've once or twice had Europeans show up, and we have a guy from Tahiti who's occasionally showed up. And I would love to see you guys come out sometime. So come from Australia. You'll be our largest our largest traveler for the show, because Seattle's a great town if you're not driving.
It sure is. I can vouch for that.
Oh, we'll see what the future holds, eh?
Yeah, you never say never.
That's right.
Mate, I'll be catching up with you in Wisconsin.
I am hoping. I am a little bit struggling because we have an AMPS National in South Bend, Indiana.
Right.
And I really, really, really want to go to Scale Model World. And as you all know, there's only so many shows you can get to.
I know it.
So right now I'm planning to go to Madison, but we'll see what happens. But yes, and I wish I could just be independently wealthy and go to shows all the time. That would be so much fun.
Same here.
I know we're all raising our hands.
Yes, very true.
You do have to pay for these play tickets, and you do have to keep your clients happy, and you can't just quit work and be Paul Gloucester and go all over the world going to modeling. That guy's got the best life ever. So.
Does he ever?
I know, but it's even worse for us. I don't know how Paul does it, because we suffer from the tyranny of distance. So everything is a long way away for us.
Yeah.
Europe, North America, yeah. It's just painful.
So what, outside of Australia, what would be your closest show? Some of the Asian shows?
Yeah,
or is there
probably New Zealand.
In New Zealand?
Yeah, New Zealand would be the closest.
New Zealand have an IPMS. It's not large, but certainly you're getting into Malaysia, Singapore, Korea. We're not really... I know Korea has some big shows, but obviously there's a language barrier there. And, of course, then you've got Japan, which is only about 9 hours north of us, flight time. And they have the big shows on up there every year that they... In fact, Julian was up there, the last one.
Yeah.
Shikazoa? Shakazoa? Shaka
You can-
I'm
Zulu.
not gonna try to pronounce it.
Shaka Zulu.
Like,
wasn't it?
Shaka Zulu.
It's Shizuoka,
There you
right?
go.
What
Shizuoka.
amazing-
And by the way, that is a display event.
As well.
There's
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
not-
is it? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I would love what kind of blows me away talking about Asia is we see all these like guys, and I assume they're from Korea or Malaysia that do these amazing water dioramas.
Yes.
I'd like to go to a show in one of those countries just to see some of that stuff in person because, like on Facebook and Instagram, I'm amazed at some of the like these guys are like the experts at water. And water to me is a disaster if I try to do it. So
Yeah.
it would be fun to see some of that stuff. Like I think there's a lot of modeling out there we don't see, and I'd love to know what's going on in China because they're not allowed to talk to the rest of the world, but are there
That's
amazing
right.
modelers there? We don't know.
Yeah.
100%. Jim, it's been awesome having you on the show.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And if anybody's in Seattle in February, come to our show.
No worries at all. All right, mate. I'll catch you later.
Thank you guys so much.
No
Really
worries.
appreciate it.
See you, Jim.
See you, mate. Well, that's a really interesting conversation with Jim. It's certainly great to catch up
Oh,
with
it
him
was,
again.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fantastic guy.
He is. And he's actually, off mic, he's quite a funny guy off mic as well.
Yes.
He's got a real dry wit.
Yes, totally agree. Totally agree, Dave.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to catching up with him, hopefully in Wisconsin.
Mm.
All right. That brings us to the end of our first show for 2024, episode 180, season 8. Ian.
Happy modelling, guys.
Julian.
Yeah. Start something new. It's a new year. Why not?
Yeah. Oh, and before I sign off, don't forget there's a whole host of other great modelling podcasts out there for your listening pleasure. Go to modelpodcast.com, which is run by our good friend Stuart.
Yep.
And he lists all the other model podcasts on there. So go and check it out. Give them all a listen. They're all great shows. They're all run by great guys. So go check them out. And thank you, everybody, for your support last year. And we look forward to your continued support this year for 2024. All right, gents, that's it. I'll see you in a fortnight.